Hello everyone, thank you for coming today to hear my informative speech about Indonesia. My name is Moreno, and through research and expert opinions, I will be able to inform you about Indonesia and help your trip be more rewarding. I'm sure you all have heard about the Spice Islands of Indonesia. Most people don't know that it's connected to Indonesia. They don't know what it is. I'm here to tell you that it's the Maluku cluster that they refer to with the Spice Islands. That's what it's technically referred to. Most people today don't know much about Indonesia. It's one of those countries that people glaze over. So I'm here to tell you more about it. Indonesia has a rich culture and colorful history that any traveler should know before traveling there. I know all 7 of you are traveling to Indonesia this summer on a missions trip, so it's very important you learn more about it. I'm going to tell you a broad overview of Indonesia's history, and we'll take a closer look at a few Indonesian islands and their culture. In about the 1200s, Muslim merchants came to Indonesia from Persia. They traded, but they also brought their Muslim Islamic religion to Indonesia, which eventually converted the Sultan of Demak, he was the first sultan that became Muslim. The Dutch came to Indonesia in the 1600s, and that's when the Dutch East India Trading Company became famous and made the Spice Islands famous. Indonesia became independent and gained its independency in the late 1900s, and Jakarta became its capital. In 1945, a democratic constitution was created. 1945, the date was again. And in 2004, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono became the president of Indonesia, and he was the first president that was directly elected from the people. Indonesia is an Islamic nation, not an Islamic state, which means that the Sharia law has not yet become adopted into the Indonesian constitution. Indonesia, some statistics about Indonesia will boggle your mind. Indonesia is the largest archipelago, which means there's the most islands there out of any other nation in the world. 17,000, over that to be exact. Indonesia spans across 3 time zones and has hundreds of ethnic groups and languages. Papua New Guinea, for example, has 700 plus languages just on that island. Despite having 17,000 islands, only 6,000 of them are actually inhabited. Indonesia is the largest Muslim nation. It has over 204 million Muslims living out of its total 300 million population. That data was from the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, and it was calculated as of July 2008. Indonesia's population is divided not only by the Muslim population, but also by a surprising statistic. On the island of Java, there are 150 million people living on that island, and that's half of Indonesia's population. The other 150 million live on surrounding islands. Indonesia has something that biologists have created to be named as greater Sundas and lesser Sundas. Sundas refer to what biologists have created as a division between east of Bali and west of Bali. The division was created mostly, at first, of plants. There's a great diversity of plants on the west side, and then it varies, and it's much distinct to be different on the east side. Racial heritage and culture also separates the greater Sundas from the lesser Sundas. The lesser Sundas, the people group's culture is similar to that of the Pacific Islanders, whereas the greater Sundas people culture is more of that of Asian mainlanders, such as in the Middle East, China, India. They resemble more of that. It's getting windy over here. The lesser Sundas are usually smaller in size than the greater Sundas. And as far as religion goes, the lesser Sundas are predominantly Christian, whereas the greater Sundas are mostly Muslim. We're going to talk about a people group now in Indonesia. It's named as the Maluku Cluster Islands, formerly known as the Spice Islands. Maluku Islands are set apart from the rest of Indonesia because of their small size. And although they're small, they're actually part of the greater Sundas. Some islands within the Maluku cluster are the Asilulu, Gesergoram, Hitu, and Lasela. And despite being so far apart from one another and isolated from islands within the Maluku cluster, a lot of the Maluku people groups are so similar in the fact that most of them fish for their occupation and most of them are Muslim. Another people group lives on the island of Papua, also known as New Guinea. Papua is the second largest island in the world, and hundreds of languages are spoken there. The western half speaks over 270 different languages, and the western half probably speaks more, but yet are still to be discovered. The eastern half is more of the undiscovered half, like I said before, and they practice cannibalism, they still use Stone Age tools, and there is much disease there as well. Islam is not so popular among the Papua Island, especially the eastern half. There are many folk religions among the very diverse people groups. It's one of the highest missionary destinations in the world today, and one of my friends, Jael Robotel, lives on West Kalimantan, and she works for New Tribes Missions, and I interviewed her through Facebook on the 22nd of January 2009 to get some of that information. To conclude the speech, nowhere else in the world can any traveler see such exotic beaches, colorful jungles, tropical rains, thousands of islands, and so many diverse people in one nation. Indonesia is such a beautiful and rich place as far as culture and people and environment go. Indonesia is known as a broken necklace because of the barriers of language and culture that Indonesia's people face, that a lot of islands are separated from one another. I encourage you all to just make the best of your trip, and that God blesses your trip so you can bless the Indonesian people. God loves them so much. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope my speech helped you.